And welcome to the College Football Takeover here on Bet the Edge, presented by BetMGM. Vaughn Dalzell, Eric Froton, and Brad Thomas are back in the house, baby. And on today's episode, we're going to double our top 25 matchups. Not two of them, but four of them, gentlemen. Oh, yeah. And we attempt to go back-to-back winners on our People's Parlay. We're talking props, ladders as always, and breaking down all of our best bets. So week 3 was fun. Gentlemen, I finally had my first winning week of the season. Thank the Lord in heavens above. 6-4, feeling pretty positive after come back from Denver and Boulder. Had a winning week in the NFL, Brad. You know, everything is positive on my end. So what did you learn in week 3, and how was your week overall?
I learned that we need an injury report. We need these coaches to be a little bit more transparent. The day before the Alabama game, they announced that Kobe Prentice had lost his starting job to Caleb Odom, which obviously I'm not going to bet his over if he's going to be behind a freshman. There's already 2 freshmen on the field, right? But no, it was good. I think that we're settling in nicely. We're starting to kind of figure out the teams who are overvalued and undervalued. And in finding some good spots, right? Just patience is key.
Yeah, as far as for myself, God, look at Clemson just dropping 66-20 on Appalachian State. You know, taking all their aggression out from that Georgia loss on poor Appy, dropping a 66 block. Kate Klubnik, you know, crossing the 350-yard barrier. I mean, that's not something I think we sort of expected in terms of game flow of that particular game. So I'm excited to be at Tiger Stadium for this Saturday for NC State at Clemson. So, you know, maybe I do have an ulterior motive here bringing up Clemson, but I'm excited for the game.
Oh, man, we're going to have to see Eric Froton on the sidelines giving a best bet on Twitter this weekend. Let's go. That gets my juices flowing. You're going to get some look-aheads this week here from Eric, too. So that's going to be a great game to go to, man. For myself, honestly, I had to make another Heisman bet. I learned that Arch Manning is as real as advertised. Not only was he running a top speed that surpassed Tyreek Hill so far this season. Obviously, Tyreek Hill's faster. No one here on this podcast will say otherwise. But Arch Manning has a top-end speed that can game change, and obviously going from 100-1 to 15-1 at most places after his 5 touchdown showing was pretty impressive. So that was a future play that I had to get involved in. Are you guys sprinkling Arch Manning, or is this just too early?
Not even remote.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, you go, brother.
I'm not even remotely betting on Arch Manning. Like, Quinn Ewers is still his team. He's going to miss this week and probably be back the following week. Maybe next year, right? Maybe depending on what weapons they keep, what they do in the portal. And we also have to remember, like, they were a 35.5-point favorite against UTSA, a team that I had Texas in my People's Parlay. So I don't care which quarterback was playing. They were going to absolutely destroy it. But I mean, it's better to be in at 150-1 than 15-1.
Yeah, amen. In terms of the Heisman markets, I am already too levered. I've already got all my, votes cast. I'm looking here on the sheet. January 5th, I bet Nico Heisman 19-1.
Love it.
I bet Jackson Dart 21-1.
Ooh.
And I bet Travis Hunter. I bet $10 to pay out $1,010.
Yeah,
so
I have to do that.
Those are the ones I've got out there right now in terms of the Heisman. So I'm going to ride with what I did on January. I got the odds have already kind of tipped in my favor on that, so I'm gonna sit tight. Respect.
Yeah, I got Travis Hunter at 50-1. So you got some great odds on him there.
Day one, you came out. Give it smart. January 5th. So
yeah,
immediately.
I remember.
Got to get that. Yeah. And I mean, I love that Nico too. He's in my pocket as well. I got him around 14 and 15-1. So I like those bets. But yeah, my only, when you go into your betting apps and then you see, your open bets from another state, my only one in Colorado is going to be Arch Manning at 25-1 when I got him for $10. So obviously not going crazy on Arch Manning, but something happened with Quinn Ewers. I think there's a chance.
I saw this pretty funny. ESPN put up a graphic of Texas, referencing Texas being number 1. It was Arch Manning's picture, and someone said Quinn Ewers' body's not even cold. Arch Manning graphic on over him.
Yeah, the hype is real. I mean, they might have 2 of the best 5 quarterbacks in the country there on that team, and that makes them dangerous at any point. So they're too much hype, probably them being number 1, in my opinion. But you could just check out our top 25 pool that comes out in a day. So and see what we think. But let's talk some 25 matchups, man. We got Tennessee, the Vols, number 6 in the country, laying 7 points at Oklahoma, the number 15 ranked Sooners. The total sitting at 57.5. Saturday kickoff at 7:30. And Eric, I mean, Tennessee, historic beatdown of Kent State, 71-0. We now know that the Vols have scored 51 or more in 3 games. Is this certainly a spot where we have to bet Tennessee to some degree?
Yeah, well, it's nice to see the Tennessee offense back after the Joe Milton era last year. Just, defecated all over it and turned into a running first team. So very excited about this game with Oklahoma on their side. Keep in mind, against Houston, they had a 16% post-game win expectancy. It was a 16-12 bowling shoe ugly affair. And their offense as a whole, like, dude, this is Jackson Arnold. What's going on? 129th in success rate, 114th of 20-plus yard plays, 101st in terms of percentage of plays with 20-plus yards. And it's the passing game. Nick Anderson, wide receiver who caught 10 touchdowns last year, is back this week. But, man, 126 in 20-yard completions, 122nd in passing success rate. Now, defensively, this is what Oklahoma has done well. It's made up for the offense. 17th in EPA per play, 10th in ISO PPP. And their run defense has been elite. 11th in EPA per rush, 4th in opportunity rate. However, the pass D's been a little soft. 68% completion rate. That's 116th in the country. 44% passing success rate allowed. That's 102nd. It's helped that they 5.7% interception rate has helped them sort of make up for it. But what I'm seeing here is, the bend but don't break sort of a defense. That works unless you're playing Tennessee. And with Nico Iamaleava, as we discussed, I already have the money invested in him at Heisman. He's currently sitting at 248.5 passing yards. I think that is a buying opportunity here against the Oklahoma Sooners. I haven't seen much. I hope they'll actually be able to score a little bit to kind of keep pace, but I don't see them being able to stop this Tennessee passing offense. This is picked up right where that 22 offense left off, the pre-Joe Milton era, and I think they're going to be running this up again. I like Tennessee to win, and I like Nico's over. And I know, Jet, I also like a play that my friend Brad has here too.
Yes. What's funny about this game is I kind of started out trying to find ways to be pro Tennessee. I wanted to try to see if I could get myself to take to lay the 7 points here with the Volunteers. Number 1 in the country in EPA margin, number 11th in offensive success rate. And then I'm just like calculating these numbers and I'm seeing number 2 in defense success rate against the run. But what's funny and why that kind of makes me excited is because Oklahoma has struggled to run the ball. Not only have they struggled to run the ball, they're using 3 running backs, and 2 of which are probably going to get usurped by Taylor Tatum, and that's Javonte Barnes and Gavin Shawchuck. I went with Barnes under 40, numbers around 43.5. I think there's some 45s floating around there. I went with his under rushing. Not only has he's only hit this once, but he's losing carries, right? He has 31 carries on 106 snaps, but you've seen it progressively go down game after game. And a lot of that has to do with them trying to find a back in this 3-headed attack that's going to have that explosive, a guy they can rely on. And I think Taylor Tatum is that back. And what makes me think that is you look at the amount of yards they've ran, Javonte Barnes, 126 rush yards, right, on 31 carries. You have Taylor Tatum at 102 on 15 carries, 6.8 yards per carry. I'm not saying either of these guys are going to have success or any of the 3, but if I were Oklahoma and I were to try to find a spark, it'd be with Tatum. I'm going to go under on Javonte Barnes against this elite rush defense. Once I saw this line, I didn't even want to take a spread or a total because the player prop in this was good enough for me to be satisfied. But I do think Tennessee covers. I know I sent some information about how frequently the Sooners have been dogs at home. Doesn't happen. But I think Tennessee's a rightful favorite in this game.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. I think if I'm picking a play on the spread or the money line, it's absolutely Tennessee in this spot. I mean, I know the competition we may speak of, Kent State, Chattanooga, NC State, because they blew out NC State too. That wasn't even close, 51-10.
Blew them out.
It's been 3 ugly contests. Tennessee is absolutely dominated. So there's just no way that I could play Oklahoma. I know the competition hasn't been up to par, but Tennessee or NC State was expected to be a top 25 entering this year. But your cap, Brad, to me sounds similar to Eric's cap of Roydell Williams, the Florida State running back. How there's a committee there and there's opportunities for playing unders on if not one but multiple running backs. So I definitely like the Javonte Barnes look against a Tennessee team that looks stout defensively. And Eric, my ladder section, I'm super excited now because I'm on Nico. And there's a big discrepancy between the sports books on Nico's ladders for this game.
Yes, it's wild. That's a great point.
Yeah, which makes me believe that he is going to have one of those outings. So I might be on his over passing yards too.
And too, with Oklahoma, this is the time in the season, right, where we're getting out of the non-con into the conference play. And these teams that have looked just completely uninspiring for the first 3 weeks, that we're still not ready to say that they aren't as good as we think they might be. I think that's Oklahoma. This is 7.5 point spread.
Yeah.
Dude, I think Tennessee mauls them. I think this is an easy one.
Yeah, I agree. I think this might have been on my card. I think I might just add it now, honestly. I'm going to bet this here before we introduce the next game. So the next one is a top 25 matchup. I actually have a bet in this game. I'm excited. It's number 12 Utah at number 14 Oklahoma State. The Utes are 2.5 point favorites. Total was 53.5. A Saturday 4 p.m. Eastern kickoff on Fox. And going to Stillwater is not easy. Oklahoma State is 25-3 at home since the start of the 2020 season. But the reason why the spread was -1 for Oklahoma State has swapped to Utah -2.5 is Cam Rising is back, Eric. And his receiver, Dorian Singer, said it. He broke the news for us. So do you think Utah should be rightly favored here, or is this a spot where Oklahoma State could win this game?
If Cam Rising's playing, Utah is going to be favored, in my opinion, and they should be, and I have no problem with that designation. You got to remember, their passing offense when Isaac Wilson isn't in there, spiking balls in the ground, excellent. Third in passing explosiveness, 11.2 net yards per attempt. That's 39th. And conversely, their pass defense, Utah, real good. Second in EPA per dropback, fourth in completion rate allowed. 40% of the passes that have been thrown against them have been completed. That's ridiculous. And second in QBR allowed. That being said, they're a little soft against the run, right? 2.4 yards after contact. That ranks 81st. EPA per rush, 61st. So even though Ollie Gordon has been, as disappointing as any running back in the country that's been healthy, I do think we see more of him in this game. And keep in mind with Oklahoma State, man, 14% win expectancy against Arkansas last game, and they managed to pull it out. So how lucky are they going to get? That being said, Oklahoma State's offense, 111th in 3-and-out rate. All right, not good. 30% of the time they're going 3-and-out. 120th in 120+ yard plays. They're not an explosive offense, but they're pretty efficient. Except for on the rushing side, as we discussed. Rushing's been brutal. 110th in yards per carry before contact, 113th success rate. And with their passing game, while they are, Alan Bowman has been good and he has been accurate, they're not explosive. 127th in 20+ yard plays. So what concerns me about that is we talked about how good Utah's passing offense has been. Dude, Oklahoma State's defense, like last year, has been pitiful. 126 in ISO PPP, 124th in percentage of plays that went for 20+ yards, 118th in pass plays of 20+ yards. 25% of their passes that they've defended gone for 20+. That's a problem against Utah. I think with Rising back, and as long as he's good to go, they're going to be able to do whatever they want against Oklahoma State. I think the script-wise is going to mean that they're going to try to run it a little bit and try to suppress what Oklahoma State wants to do in terms of passing the ball. I'm leaning Utah.
No surprise.
Let's talk about this a little bit. Let's go in a little deeper, Vaughn, on those numbers that you gave out. 4-3 against the spread at home as an last season, and then as an underdog, 3-0 against the spread. Oklahoma State. Ooh. Let's go to when Gundy took over at this program. 66-55 against the spread at home. 16-11-1 as an underdog at home. It's going to be funny because I actually do think this is the game that Ollie Gordon breaks out. 216 yards on 62 carries. Like, if there's never been anybody who's more due, it kind of reminds me of Dylan Gabriel last week, right? Like, Dylan Gabriel was due. He was due. Ollie Gordon's due. A little bit different of a situation here. It's hard for me to want to back either side in this, especially Utah on the road. Like we talk about how great they've been against the pass. I think they're 5th in defensive success rate against the pass.
Yeah.
They play Bryson Barnes and Daquan Finn, right? Like not two very prolific passers. So it kind of leaves me, I have more question marks than answers. So for me, I passed in this game, but Alan Bowman's been pretty good. Ollie Gordon's due for a breakout, but that Utah team is still really good. Cam Rising still under center for them. As long as he's healthy, I just can't downgrade them too many points. So for me, it was just a pass.
Yeah, I'm on Oklahoma State here, and a lot of the reasons you said. I mean, I like the trend stats, but I look at a few things that Eric said and Brad said, and I'm going to mention both of them because Oklahoma State's pass defense, they've been up in a lot of games. South Dakota State and Tulsa were blowouts, so those teams are just chucking away the entire game. But the Arkansas game was also a good over game, 39-31, double overtime. I like Oklahoma State's experience. I agree. This is the Ollie Gordon breakout game. He's my ladders play. I got him at plus 275 and 10-1. So you guys already mentioned my 2 ladder player props today in the first 6 segments. So I feel like this is my week. But this is also a matchup of 2 of the oldest quarterbacks in college football history together right now. I mean, Alan Bowman and Cam Rising are combined 49 years old. If you guys watch the Colts and Bears game, those guys were like combined 44 years old, like Caleb Williams and Anthony Richardson. So, these are 2 very experienced teams. Going to Stillwater is not going to be easy. So I'm taking the plus 2.5 with Oklahoma State. I'm sprinkling the money line. Similar to last week, we went 2 of 3 on our underdogs. This is my underdog play of the week. So I think Ollie Gordon bounces back big. And if there was rushing attempt props on most sports books, Eric and Brad, I think that Ollie Gordon would be a good bet. Yeah, he'd be a good bet. But let's talk about the game you're going to, Eric. NC State at Clemson. Tigers, 20.5-point favorites. Over-under is 47. This is a noon kickoff, so you're going to be up early. I hope that West Coast travel doesn't get to you too bad, my friend. But what are you going to be betting in this game? What did you lock in already?
Yeah, man, I'm going to be traveling on Friday because we got playoff softball Thursday night, and I'm not going to miss playoff softball. Not for anything. Come on now. But yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to this. And frankly, every time out we see NC State, they're just underwhelming us time after time. Whether it's Western Carolina, they managed to squeak 38-21, and that was like close in the second half. Mm-hmm. They get annihilated 51-10 by Tennessee, and then this last week against Louisiana Tech, 30-20.
Oh my God.
I mean, they didn't look particularly good. That was a dogfight, that game, up until the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? And you're going up against Clemson now. And sure, as we discussed, Georgia wiped them off the planet. I mean, just a complete catastrophe. But last week against Happy, 5 touchdowns for Klubnik, over 350 passing yards. They did anything they wanted. Maffa going for 118. Really looked possessed. And against an NC State team, and it kind of gets down to Oklahoma State. This is even like times 10 of Oklahoma State of looking, dodgy.
Yeah.
NC State has looked horrible when I've watched them. Grayson McCall hurt. In comes CJ Bailey. You've got a freshman QB who's kind of more of a dual threat. You're going to have him throwing in the teeth of Clemson's defense. Oh boy, this could get bad fast. And I know it's 20.5 points, but man, I ain't taking NC State. I'll tell you that much. And I like maybe Klubnik is figuring it out. He looked really good against Appalachian State. I got to watch all of those passes. I'm going to go with over 254.5 passing yards for Cade Klubnik. And I'm going to save, my further commentary until the latter section.
This is a funny game because, man, you're just laying so many points with the Tigers, right? Yeah. But I just think this is one of those situations where, if everything's clicking offensively for Clemson, all I have to do is outduel CJ Bailey. I was looking at Clemson's numbers, though, not as good of a defensive start, but it's also
that's Georgia.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's also a team who was top 5 in almost every EPA margin offensively, both passing and throwing the ball last season. And then they bring in more weapons, right? Like it's one of those things. And it's not bringing more weapons. They have their quarterback with more experience is what I meant to say in that situation. So like you can forgive that. You want to talk about situations where you put a line through it. That Georgia and Clemson game, you could put a line through that. I think the box score to that game didn't really indicate how the game was going. Like Clemson was in that game for a really long time. North Carolina State, disappointing. I think this is like, they're kind of lucky to be 2-1. I think this is a game they're going to get probably absolutely mauled. You don't have, when you look at their team, like there's nothing that you can go back and say, wow, they do this really well, right? Like not that great against the run, not that great against the pass, can't run the ball, can't throw the ball. So for them to go into Death Valley, like their pathways to victory are very limited, especially with a young quarterback under center now. I'd lean laying the points with the Tigers.
Man, yeah. Clemson has not been one of my favorite teams to bet, but NC State to me, I mean, I thought they'd be much, much better than this. Eric, you said they got a freshman quarterback rolling into the teeth of that defense. Does that mean that you're going to bet and hit on a Clemson defensive touchdown prop this week? Are we doing that?
Oh, wow. Is that what we're doing here?
Is that possible?
That is bold, betting the defensive touchdown props. Do you know where we're at on that? Do we have a number on it?
No.
How much are they enticing me to take this prop?
What would you need to get involved with a defensive touchdown prop? Because I'm still trying to hit one. I can't get one, Brad.
Dude, they're tough, man. It's not like
they're hard.
That is very difficult. I need I don't bet them generally, but man, I need like 15-1.
Oh, so you're not getting that. That's insane. Clemson is plus 320.
Like
plus 320.
No, please. 320 for a defensive touchdown. No way. No way. That ain't no.
Well, good news for you, NC State people. You won't be throwing interception for a touchdown, Eric says. But,
maybe you will. Just not
if you do, we'll be upset about it because we didn't bet plus 320. But it's okay. It's okay. Then we got other ways to make money for you guys, including this NFL season with fantasy football. You guys can dominate this NFL season with a Fantasy Life Plus subscription. Get weekly rankings, start set advice, DFS analysis, and betting tools. Use promo code SEASON20 for 20% off. Go to fantasylife.com/rotoworld to learn more. And to learn more about our ladder plays, you stick right here. You don't have to go anywhere. Eric teased one. Brad has one. And I have 4. But they're on the same 2 players. Well, Brad has 2, actually. Brad's laddering the same player, too. So I'm excited to hear that. But, Eric, you said Cade Klubnik. You got him. But you also have a quarterback for Texas Tech, too.
I do. And I guess we'll start with Cade Klubnik. As we discussed, he's at the 254. But you look at his ladders, 300 yards plus 260. Not bad. 325, which is kind of the one I'd be looking at more because we all like the return. 5-1. And as we discussed, he cleared that last game against Appy. They are not going to take the foot off the gas if they get an opportunity to light NC State on fire, which I think is in play. So I like that. And then on the other side, man, Texas Tech just keeps, what do they want to do? They want to chuck. Taj Brooks, hurt, dinged up. He played last game, but they didn't give him the same kind of volume you'd be getting before. We are seeing quite a bit of the passing offense that we were really hoping for in 2023. When Zach Kitley came over, we're like, are we going to get the Western Kentucky passing offense? Are we going to get Bailey Zappi 6,000 passing yards? Well, we haven't. Over the first couple of games, look, Baron Morton is crushing his 260 number. Hit 271 last game, but that was against North Texas. They had that game in the bag at halftime. They took the foot off the gas and he put up 271.
Yeah.
This week, they're going to have to throw against Arizona State, who has actually been better against the run than they have been against the pass. I'm looking at his 325 plus passing yards at plus 425. You're getting almost 4.5 1-to-1 odds. Give me a little sprinkle on Baron Morton's over.
Let me tell you about my ladder play. I think I've hit ladder plays in back-to-back weeks. Last week was actually really exciting. I think I hit it by the third quarter. That was Mr. Trey Harris. I'm really excited about this one because I just think this number's too low. Alex Orji, quarterback from Michigan, I'm taking his rushing ladder. For anybody listening, let me just go ahead and give you those numbers real quick. That's 60 plus rushing yards at plus 240 and 70 plus at plus 400. What's the big difference, right, between the 2 quarterbacks, between him and Davis Warren? If you remember Orji coming in last year and parts of this year, he was running for like 30, 40 yards a game, would only play like 7 snaps minimum. Basically, what he would come in to do is run the ball. What's funny about that is you're not drawing up these plays. Michigan's going to be a run-first team. You're not drawing up these kind of plays for Davis Warren where it's going to be RPOs, zone reads, or even QB draws and things of that nature, right? You do that with Alex Orji, and he's a legitimate runner of the football, a strong and powerful runner as well. Michigan's offensive line's not bad, right? Like not the Joe Moore offensive line that we've seen the years past, but I don't think they're going to have that much pressure where he's going to get sacked. But I do think as a younger quarterback with not like a bunch of experience under his belt, I do think when you feel that pressure coming, what's the best thing you could do? Run the ball and take off. And he's going to have a couple of those big 20-yard gains. I like this number a lot, and I'll probably end up playing this by itself. You'll see later in the show.
Yeah, I like this. I'm excited to hear the talk of USC versus Michigan too, because I think that, we all had our mindset pretty much made up on how we were going to be approaching the Wolverines. And, I even gave them a shot last week, Brad, with that team total under. They're up 28-3. Then, I don't know what happened. I don't want to talk about it still. But I think that this is a game where Michigan has to have something offensively, and he's probably their best bet to get them going outside of Mullings right now. But for mine, you guys both talked about two of the guys I love this week, Ollie Gordon for Oklahoma State. I think he needs to have that breakout performance against Utah. 2+ touchdowns. You can get that anywhere between plus 265 and plus 275. The 3 touchdowns, though, is 10-1. And that goes on to 8-1 at some places. And when you look at what he did last year, I mean, he scored twice in 2 games, scored 3 times in 1 game, once already this season in the season opener. He also had games of 4 and 5 touchdowns last season. Like, this guy knows how to find an end zone. And I also like Nico, quarterback for Tennessee, which Eric talked about, has his over passing yards. I'm actually going in the passing touchdown market because the money I thought was a little better there. Plus 255 for 3+ touchdowns. And for 4+ touchdowns, that's 11-1 at DraftKings compared to 6-1 at FanDuel. And MGM hasn't even opened this yet because they know we're going to smack this one up. So I'm pretty excited to get my hands on Nico. I think that he could potentially have a hat trick there, and so could Ollie Gordon. So do you guys have a preference on either one of those? Am I approaching this the right way, Eric, with Nico?
Yeah, I like it with Nico. Absolutely. Yeah. And with the books, we were all nervous in the offseason because you heard everything from Charlie Baker, president of the NCAA, talking about, oh, we want props to be gone. We don't want any college props. It's, lobbying legislatures, all this stuff. And instead of getting no props, we ended up just getting all the props.
Yeah.
I mean, there's completions and there's rushing. It's just like they've just flooded the entire market to where it's like it's a full-time job just capping all these things. So I'm pretty happy about how the Nico projection is looking, and I'm on the same sort of a play. So yeah, let's roll.
Let's rock and roll.
I'm super optimistic. I think both of your plays are going to hit. So,
well, I almost regretted I parlayed week 1 Shadur Sanders the 400 yards and Garrett Nussmeier the 400 yards so I could just retire and then never see you guys again. But it was actually Miller Moss that I should have took with Shadur Sanders. So I feel like this is the week, Brad, where I could hit like 2 10-1s or 11-1 and 10-1 together. So yeah, Nico 4 touchdowns and Ollie Gordon 3 touchdowns will definitely be in a parlay together for myself. So let's hopefully just turn our season around in one bet. But let's talk about some Big Ten matchups. And this one has got me all twisted and turned around because it's a top 25 matchup no one expected to see in week 4. It's Illinois and Nebraska, or the Fighting Dylan Raiolas, as my friend Brad had called them earlier in the week. Nebraska is laying 8.5 with a total of 42.5. This is a Friday night game, Friday night lights at 8 p.m. Eastern. So, Brad, I mean, are you believing in Nebraska? I know you put Illinois in the top 25, but they're getting bounced. Am I right?
Yeah, I do believe Nebraska win this game. We're going to go back to what we talked about when they played Colorado last year. They play against and I'm not comparing Illinois to Colorado by any means for anybody who wants to screenshot this and send this out. It's not what I'm doing. I'm just talking about how bad offensively Nebraska was. It didn't matter how good they were defensively. They put themselves in a losing position, turning the ball over 4+ times. But now they bring in Dylan Raiola, and he's been incredible. And what I mean by incredible is he's not going to go out there and be a gunslinger, especially not in year 1, right? Like, that's just not what they need him to do. What they need him to do is move the chains, pick up first downs, and then help out the passing, help out the running game. And what I mean by that is he's throwing the ball, right? You're not going to be able to stack the box against this team, and this team's going to want to run the ball. So you need a competent, effective quarterback. I said this on Twitter, and I stand by it. we're starting to get in the danger zone of Nebraska. Maybe I would have had this at like 6.5. We're starting to get in the danger zone where people want Nebraska football to be back so bad, right? Like it's not like some random run-of-the-mill Big Ten team who's starting to become good. No offense, Northwestern, right? Like remember when Northwestern had their little heyday that they kept winning their side of the division and making it to the Big Ten championship. This is Nebraska with Heisman Trophy winners, like legitimate program that just had its dead period. They're ready to be back to what was that, the 70s? So we're going to see a lot of that hype starting to come back. The line's going to be overinflated. I didn't really talk about anything from a numbers perspective because there's not much to say, right? Like Illinois, good defensive team. They're going to want to run the ball. Maybe the under is probably the way to go. I just can't. My thing is I can't lay I think it's up to 8.5, 9.5 at some places. I would rather sit off, play the under than lay that big of a number. They could absolutely win this by 10 plus. But I just wouldn't have made that line that big.
Yeah, this is a game that I feel has a little bit of an underscript going, given the respective defenses. Plus, you're looking at Illinois, they rank 111th in seconds per play, while Nebraska is even slower, is 121st. So you know what these two teams want to do. Bielema runs the ball at a 67% clip anyways, which is like 13% more than the national average on standard downs. But what I want to focus on is Nebraska's run defense, and they have been phenomenal this season. 13th in EPA per rush, 10th in stuff rate, and 6th in yards per rush. Now, their pass defense, on the other hand, 67% completion rate, and of those completions result in successful plays only 26.5% of the time. That is a 17th in the FBS rate. So I am looking at Illinois. And specifically Caden Fegan, running back for Illinois. He's like 240 pounds. I watched every one of the team's carries. Last game against Central Michigan, not exactly the Great Wall out there being pitched by Central Michigan. And they were able to do a pretty darn good job of stifling that run game. Caden Fegan was extremely disappointing. You know, he had 10 carries, only 25 yards. And the other two rushers in that backfield, Josh McCray, 8 carries, 54 yards. Khalil Valentine, 5 carries, 53 yards. He was the only one that went out there and stunk against a MAC team. Is that what we're talking about here? And now they're going against Nebraska. And we just talked about their defensive front. Their front seven is ridiculous. It's soft Iowa. Give me the under on Caden Fegan's 52.5 rushing yards all day. And then, as is customary, we have to. Dylan Raiola, if you're going to put him out at 9.5 rushing yards, I'm going to take his under. He's 260 pounds. He wants to be Patrick Mahomes. He wants to throw the ball like Patrick Mahomes. He's not going to be running at all. So, look, if he can maybe beat you with that 9.5 rushing yards, best of luck. He had a 12-yard run 2 weeks ago, then took 2 sacks. He ended up with 7 yards. Dude, that's an automatic over every time. Under Dylan Raiola, 9.5 rushing yards. 10.5 at Bet Online if you want to go offshore.
Okay. Like that. Yeah, I think both those lines set up well because as Brad was saying, and you mentioned too, I think this sets up to be an under game. I mean, Big Ten unders are usually the play to go, but Friday night, standalone game. The last time this happened, we got beat by overtime in a Northwestern game, but I think this one comes home. I think this is competitive. And Brad said I would rather play the under than play such a big spread and a low total. And I think that's a big reason why we've seen Illinois at 10.5 come down to 8.5 at some spots, and it might even drop down to 8. So I set up and agree with that. And for a Friday night bet, this might end up on my card as an under. And your seconds per play number, Eric, that's very interesting. Sounds like Surface Academy numbers to me.
Really is.
Yeah. So let's talk about Michigan, man. The Wolverines. Brad gave us a play in it earlier, and I'm going to have Brad lead us off on this one. But USC is now a 6-point favorite. This was 5.5 earlier. The total was 44.5. That's dropped down 2 points. I was going to come on here and talk about I like the under 46.5. That number is completely gone. I think rightfully so, Brad. Both these defenses are better than the opposing offenses they will face. We know that Miller Moss has looked good, but this is probably going to be his toughest test of the season. What do you like about this matchup for either team?
Man, so I like a little bit here. I like a lot of it here. We during the Texas game, we were talking about how long it's been since Michigan had lost in the shoe, how long it had been since Michigan were dogs in the shoe. And outside of their offense not really getting going, they weren't poor against Texas. Texas was just a unit against them, having some success. I'm ultimately going to lay the points with Michigan. Fun fact here, Michigan from last year are blitzing a ton more, right? They're blitzing 47% of the time. Last year, they were blitzing 29% of the time. Miller Moss has been solid against the blitz, but the blitz hasn't got home, right? I think that in the big house at 12 o'clock, you need to put pressure on the quarterback. I think bringing Alex Orgean kind of gives this team a little bit more of that boost than being excited, right? And what's exciting about that situation for Michigan is they can hang their hats on their defense a little bit more. They don't have to feel like the defense doesn't have to feel like, oh, here we go again. You know that meme. Here we go again. We're back on the field because our offense couldn't sustain drives. I think they'll sustain drives a little bit more, make it more difficult for USC. So I think Michigan's a sneaky play here. I think they've been written off automatically, but people forget how hard it is to play in the big house.
Yeah, that's fair. When it comes to Michigan, too, you got to remember that, again, this offense has not been the Michigan offense of yesteryear. Just pitiful. 128th in ISO PPP, 123rd in marginal explosiveness. You can go up and down the line. I don't even forget it. What I want to focus on is their defense. Rushing wise, Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, they are still absolutely impenetrable when it comes to rush defense. 27% defensive rushing success rate. That's 15th in the country. Opportunity rate is 3rd. Yards per carry before contact, 5th. That's on their defensive side. They've been awesome once again against the run. Against the pass, though, the exact opposite. 101st in passing success rate, 99th with a 64% completion rate allowed, 92nd in completions of 20-plus yards. What does that tell me? Well, that tells me that if I'm USC, I'm going to try to throw the ball with Miller Moss and, a fleet of pretty talented receivers. And that's going to be bad news for Woody Marks, who isn't particularly physical between the tackles anyways. We saw him just barely squeak over his 68, I want to say 60. I think he settled at 65 against LSU. Just barely squeaked over it against them. Now we're dealing with Michigan's front, where we've seen what they can do against the run, and we've seen what they can't do against the pass. I just think script-wise, it makes all the sense in the world for USC to attack them through the air. I'm taking the under on Woody Marks' 60.5 rushing yards. He opened to 67.5, which I got him, has gone down since then. I think he probably end up around 55.5. So if you can get it at 60 now, I take it now.
I absolutely love that play. It's amazing how fast college football player props can really move, especially on the unders. And it's also funny, going back on something you said, Eric, about the prop market itself. Some markets are even now not even giving us unders, only strictly overs on their books, because the unders can be so profitable.
DraftKings tapped out. Tapped out. They won't even take our
unders. Said, I'm over it.
Too bad.
I wasn't trying to name any names, but
that's how it is.
They said I'm over it.
They're scared.
There's a lot of money to be made on the unders, though, in college football, especially when there's multiple running backs in the backfields, 2 quarterback systems, receivers who continue to draw passes like Dante Cephas, right, Eric? So, yeah, we good. So we'll keep hitting those unders. I like both those plays here. Go Big Blue. At least get us some coin back, man. Geez, last week was so hideous the last 5 minutes. Anyways, UCLA at LSU. Speaking of hideous, UCLA at number 16 LSU. Eric, I owe you a roast beef on Friday, my man.
I tried to help you. I tried to tell you.
Hey, I can't win all 3 underdog bets, man. That was over after 4 minutes. I was like, holy crap, I'm not watching this. But
UCLA is bad.
We have to play it. We have to play LSU, right, Eric? 24.5 point favorites. The total's at 56.5 points to LSU scoring points. And it's a 3:30 kickoff. So UCLA traveling across the country in this afternoon game. They're just going to be going home super sad, right?
They're so bad. UCLA. What do you want to go with? Do you want to go with rushing? Okay, 130th in rushing success rate.
Oh,
3rd worst in the country at power success rate. They just get pushed around. 114th in EPA per rush. Just ghastly. On the passing side, the one thing they do is they actually will hit some big plays, but the consistency, 117th in success rate, 124th in adjusted net yards per attempt, 50% passing completion rate. One of the teams they played was Hawaii.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I can't take this team. So like, it's a massive line. Is it? It's over 3 touchdowns. This is a Power 4 Big Ten team in name. I'm staying away, but like I can't take UCLA. I refuse to. But if I had to go somewhere, I'd lean LSU. But
so yesterday, Brad and I were recording, and we had to do this game for our Bet in a Minutes that go on the NBC website. And he didn't know the spread of this game before he went into it. And he's like, I would play LSU up to 35.5. I was thinking, oh my God, what a ladder. Then I told him it's only 24.5. He was like, oh, really? So Brad, I mean, are you going to be playing LSU to some degree?
I haven't decided, right? I haven't gotten to the window.
Too easy.
First I got to see the health of all these LSU players. I also have to see my mental health. And what I mean by that is this LSU team may make bonehead decisions. They've made a couple bonehead decisions in every single game, right? When you're laying 25 points on a team, like you need it to be good, clean football. And for some reason, these decisions that they're making, the missed tackles that are happening in their games are allowing their opponents to either take leads or keep it in the game. But man, God, this UCLA team is horrible. I do think that, Kyron Lacey didn't hit his over last week. I do think this is a chance. I think this is a chance for Kyron Lacey to hit that mark again. I didn't think the line's out. It'll probably be set around 72 somewhere. I think he'll be able to hit that mark. It was funny because he didn't do anything for like the first quarter and a half and still almost hit his number. So, but yeah, I'm going to stay away from this for now. But man, it's a whole different regime for UCLA, right? Like this is not the same UCLA team we're accustomed to.
No, not at all. It's like it seems too easy. I'm trying to see. There's not as many props out for this game yet, but I mean LSU's team total really for this game is 40.5. So like they're expected just to roll this team, and I like the Lacey call. Lacey's actually a probably good ladder play for like touchdowns too, 2+ touchdowns, 3+ touchdowns. Like he might have a game against UCLA. So yeah, I like that. I'm just again sorry to everybody who tailed UCLA last week because that was pitiful. A 14-play drive or whatever for Indiana. UCLA gets the ball back. They fumble the very first play. Indiana gets it back, scores. Then UCLA drives down the field and misses a field goal. It was just like, oh my God, nothing can go right for this team. But it's okay. We get our coin back other ways. So one team though that nothing went right. Honestly, the past 2 weeks for me with them, but I'm going back on them a third time. The Iowa Hawkeyes.
Oh, another one.
Troy team total under didn't come through last week. I don't know what was going on with the Iowa Hawkeyes defense, but the total here is 35.5 when they go to Minnesota. Iowa's a 2.5-point favorite. It's a Saturday night game at 7:30 Eastern on NBC and Peacock. So we do know that the crowd could play an advantage here, but I'm not going to lie. I'm taking Iowa, guys. I mean, Iowa's got to win this game. If they want to make the college football playoff, this is an absolute must-win to a team they lost to last year, 12-10, and they beat 8 years straight before that. This is a good Iowa team. I don't know what's happened in the last 5 quarters of football for Iowa, but I think they got to have some type of resurrection, Eric.
Yeah, they need a resurrection. That being said, their rushing D's been really good. Second in yards per successful rush, 4th in EPA per rush, 17th in yards per rush. However, right, what are they not doing well? They're getting hit big through the air with explosive passes. 113th in marginal explosiveness, 107th in yards per successful drop back. And that's interesting because they're 24th in passing success rate. So it's like they're able to snuff out the short stuff. They're able to, deflect passes and really just get them shorten the field, just really make them come over the top. But teams are beating them over the top now in a way they haven't before. Fortunately, they're playing Minnesota. So they're fine. They're fine. What I think Minnesota will be doing, since they will not be beating them over the top, is I think they're going to be throwing to Darius Taylor a lot. If you look at the first 2 games of this season, it's clear that, in lieu of a effective tight end, which they simply don't have, pretty much have one option out there, with Daniel Jackson as a wide receiver, they're hitting Darius Taylor a lot out of the backfield. 4 catches the first game, 5 catches the next game. All 9 of his targets he has reeled in for 95 yards, and that's only in 2 games. You're going to put him at 15.5 receiving yards. Yeah, it's great. Iowa's good. Like you said, they weren't able to stop Iowa State. They went over the top on them. And with Minnesota, they're not going to be able to, I don't think they're going to be able to just bully them and run up the middle. They're going to have to get a little creative. I think you're going to see a lot of Darius Taylor getting dump offs at 15.5 receiving yards. I think that's an easy one. You could also look at the 2.5 receptions over as well.
Yeah, Iowa's defense still strong, right? Numbers a little skewed. We saw that Iowa State game. What happened? What was their undoing? The big plays. But Minnesota doesn't throw the ball deep, right? Like they're a team that plays in front of themselves as well. I may be thinking that Iowa might be turning into an over team or regression's going to hit. One of the two, right? It's a really tough game for me to think about what's going to happen here. Good defense on the side of Minnesota. I don't know what your play is, Vaughn, but I'm sure like you're going to be on like Minnesota team total under. I think they're like maybe like 50th or 60th in rush rate over expected Minnesota. So they'll be running the ball obviously more. And then even those passes that they're going to be throwing aren't massive down the field. So should chew up some more clock. Under would be the only way for me to play. And by the mat, that would probably be Minnesota team total or just take Iowa money line. I just haven't been, I don't know, man. PJ Fleck, he's one of those coaches where he can have an unsuccessful season or an unsuccessful stretch, have that one spark game, that one pop, and it changes the tone because he's such a, and I mean, it's most respect possible, such a raw coach, right? Where things go well or something like an upset happens, it's the rah. We hear the row the boat, and we kind of overvalue or overestimate what this Minnesota team is. Happens so frequently, but they're not a good team. At least not a team where I think I'd be confident in betting them against a good defensive unit.
Yeah, I'm on Iowa.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm with you. No, just to color it, their ability to protect too against Iowa. Minnesota, 117th in sacks per dropback, 115th in sacks per pressure, 128th in passing down sack rate. When teams know that they're going to drop back and they're going to pass, when they pin their ears back, they don't have enough time. They can't protect, which kind of adds a little bit more spice to that play with Darius Taylor.
Yeah, absolutely love that call too. And Brad, you said Iowa might be becoming an over team. It's easy when you finally have somewhat of a quarterback, not sneaking Deacon back there at quarterback for us. I think that Iowa's obviously best offensive unit that they've had in quite some time, and Caleb Johnson's a great running back, but they have a core unit there. Obviously, when you have a tight end like Addison Ostrenga who gets 5 receptions for 9 yards and 1 touchdown, you become an over team. It just naturally happens that way. But I like Iowa on the money line. I think they win this game, as I said. It's college football playoffs. They have to win this game. They have a nice schedule set up for them. That Iowa State loss really put a damper on their season because they can't afford many more L's, and certainly not one to PJ Fleck, a team they beat 8 of the last 9 meetings. So give me Iowa on the money line. And I know one of the 3 people on this have as their people's parlay pick, but it's not I. So you have to wait and see who else likes Iowa later on. But Michigan State and Boston College, not many people like the Spartans this year, but some are starting to become believers. They're only a 6.5-point dog here at Boston College. Total sitting at 45.5. Saturday night, 8 p.m. game. And honestly, I mean, Boston College played Missouri so well, Brad, that this would have to be a Boston College minus 6.5 spot for me. So are you going to talk me off otherwise?
Listen, Boston College brings Bill O'Brien in, and they clean up the mistakes. They run the ball effectively. They have an identity, and they play top teams well. Despite Florida State being the only 0-3 team, especially the first team to cash their win total under, I do think that was still a big win for Boston College, and they should still be proud of it, and they should not be undervalued because of it. I do think they have their holes, right? It's Boston College, but against this Michigan State team, I actually think Michigan State can hang around in this game. And it's not because of offensively, right? Like Aiden Childs has been what you think from a growing quarterback, right? It's made his mistakes, hasn't been great. For some reason, you bring in Smith here, and he's really good on making good offensive lines and scheming up good run schemes and stuff like that. And they haven't ran the ball well, right? And they bring in a transfer back to pair with Carter, and it's just not having success. Their offense hasn't been good. Well, defensively, they've been really freaking good. 17th in defensive success rate and 15th EPA against the rush, 36 EPA against the pass. Really stout. Why that's really important for this game, we could throw the pass out, right? Like, I'm not really like high on Castellanos' new nickname instead of Thomas. It's Tommy Castellanos throwing the ball, but he's got wheels. This team's really good at running. I think Michigan State could do enough to hang around. You start flirting with like the question marks of 6. Is it too many? Is it too few? I actually lean with the Spartans here. We just need a clean game out of Childs. If that happens, they're in this game. Also, like, what kind of toll does that take losing that Missouri game? Because you have, this is a Boston College that's still an underdog team, and there's a lot of mental aspect that goes on. Like, we're the underdogs, we just knocked off Florida State. We're the underdogs. We just went toe to toe to Missouri. Now we're the hunted, not the hunters, and that changes mentality a lot. So I do lean Michigan State here. You saw what they did against Maryland. They were pretty phenomenal to come out on top on that one.
Yeah, as you mentioned with Boston College, I mean, what do they want to do? Oh, they want to throw the ball. I mean, should we run the ball? 81% of the time they run the ball on standard downs. You want Service Academy? Here, welcome. It's 4th most in the country. But when they do throw, right? So they have that just run, and they use a lot of motion. You're always seeing like somebody in the backfield. There's always somebody that's in motion every time that they're running a play. So subterfuge, misdirection, big part of their offense. And it really helps because when they finally do go back to pass, and it isn't often, 4th in EPA per dropback, 2nd in adjusted nets per attempt, 2nd in total QBR. And I like Tommy as opposed to Thomas. I like Billy's. I like Tommy's. I like Danny's. I like it. I like the youthful exuberance when they go with those sort of a name with an E at the end. With BC, right, defensively, though, you can beat them passing, but good luck on the run. The run D is nasty. 35% stuff rate. Are you kidding me? 12th in yards before contact. No problem. So that is a good thing against Michigan State because what can they not do? Oh, they can't pass. They can't pass at all. 102nd in passing success rate. 131st in interception rate. Aiden Destiny Childs, an interception, 8% of his throws. That is horrific. I don't think they're going to try to do that. I mean, that would be a bad idea. I mean, I don't think it's there. But defensively, like Brad said, 47th in pass success rate, 47th in pass explosiveness, right? Both of these teams are slow, very slow. 130th in plays per second for BC. Everything I'm seeing here is telling me under 45.5 points. So that's where I'm going with it.
Yeah, certainly a tough game to handicap. I think the under is a good way to go here.
Ugly game. Yeah.
Ugly.
Yeah.
Big ugly.
Yeah, big ugly. I'm trying not to laugh at all your names being your Tommies and Billies and all that stuff, but me and Brad are having too much fun in the chat, so we're gonna have to move on here because I
can't throw an E at the end of I'm Eric. There's no Eric-y. I'm jealous.
Eric-y.
I mean, hey, he could work.
Bonnie? No, that doesn't work. Brady? No, we none of us can do it. I'm jealous of those guys.
Yeah, certainly. Tommy Cutlets was one of a kind, but now we got Tommy Castellanos.
Right,
yeah, one upping them there. But a lot of good action going on this weekend outside of college football as well, guys. The defending Super Bowl champions are back in primetime this weekend on Sunday Night Football. It's Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs hit the road for a battle with the Falcons in Atlanta. Coverage of the matchup begins at 7 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock.
As you all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up to BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code BETEDGE. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code BETEDGE when you sign up. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.
And thank you, Jay Croucher, for that promo read. His voice just so dreamy, gentlemen. We're talking about.
I wish I was New Zealandish, or is he Aussie? I forget.
Australian, I think.
Australian. I'm so jealous. They all sound so smart.
Close, Eric. Close. I'm not gonna say which your guess was when we were in Vegas, but I'm not gonna spare. I'm gonna spare you that.
Fair enough.
But anyways, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, unless you're betting the People's Parlay on BetMGM, because that does travel with you. Last week we finally had a winner, baby. 1-2 on the season. It was plus 623 odds, so that gives us plus 423 units if you're betting a unit on each of these, or sprinkle, whatever it is. You're up over 4 units now, so we like to see that. Going back to back this week, we attempt to. And Eric, you have a 2-1 record, while Brad and I sport 1-2 records. So the order will be Eric, Brad, then myself.
Okay, well then I will kick it off, and we have discussed it already. I'm 2-1 in the best bets, by the way. I should be 3-0, but I was, as Vaughn and Brad correctly pointed out, I don't know why I said Virginia minus 1.5. It should have been a money line. I have corrected that. We're taking Iowa money line at Minnesota against this game. There is no way that a just reeling Gophers team is going to be able to bow up against an Iowa team. Like, as Vaughn said, that they are motivated, they are ready, and they are simply a better program. Give me Iowa.
I'm going to give my leg, and it's Oregon State against Purdue. I think we get a little bit of value here on Oregon State. I think this line's just going to keep creeping up because it dropped because they got blitzed by Oregon. Different monster here. This is a Purdue team who is 132nd offensive success rate, only 50th in defensive success rate, but more importantly, 129th in net points per drive. Oregon State is gonna be able to run the ball. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you this: the line's not out yet, but I swear if they give me Jam Griffin around 50, I'm gonna just take it and ladder him up. We didn't get it last week because he only carried the ball 7 times, right? Different game script in this one. They're gonna lean on the run. 95th rush rate, like over expected. 95th, and that means what they're gonna do. Just keep running. Still Corvallis.
Took us 57 minutes to talk about a Haynes or a Jam on this show. I'm so disappointed, Brad. Be better
Anchor
than that.
Jam. Yeah.
For my leg, I like Oklahoma State plus the 3. I know the line is 2 or 2.5 at most places. I got the 3 for our parlay, getting that key number in case Brad and Eric both cash, and then I push. But I think Oklahoma State can win this game. Like I said, it's a hard team to beat at home. Ollie Gordon, big potential here for him to run all over Utah. We just got to hope Cam Rising does not destroy that Cowboys defense there on the road. So we have Iowa money line, Oregon State money line, and Oklahoma State plus 3. That is plus 391 odds. $10 pays almost $50 out. So best of luck if you're telling with us. Hopefully we can go back to back in that department here. But before we get to our best bets, let's roundtable some of our favorite bets of the week. Brad has discussed most of them, so he's going to save his best bet here in the next few minutes. Eric, I'm going to let you kick you off. Give us 2 of your favorite bets of this week.
We're going to go with Ja'Cory Brooks, wide receiver Louisville versus Georgia Tech. He's listed at 55.5 receiving yards. He's pretty much clearly established himself as the wide receiver 1 for Louisville and for Brian Brom's offense, which have we seen year after year after year. That wide receiver 1 in that Purdue, that Louisville offense eats. And you're going to put Ja'Cory Brooks at 55.5 against the Georgia Tech team that is going to be pretty giving all day. If you want to ladder that, I haven't seen any ladder opportunities yet. Major ladder opportunity. And then next, we'll go with Devin Mockabee, running back Purdue at the aforementioned Oregon State. Purdue I got to watch the first half of that game. 42-0 at half against Notre Dame. Notre Dame took out Riley Leonard at halftime and put in Steven Peanut Butter and Jelly and let him have literally the entire second half. There was no concern on Marcus Freeman with Purdue was going to do anything to Notre Dame. And that's with an injured Jordan Botello, who is out for the season. Like, This Purdue offense was so bad, it's hard to even imagine how they could be competent. Oregon State was decent against Oregon. Devin Mockabee splitting time with Reggie Love, transfer from Illinois. No way. 56.5 rushing yards. 56.5. They're going across the country to Oregon State. Show me. Show it to me. Under.
I love it when you give the show me numbers out.
I get upset sometimes at some of these.
They do well. Yeah, they do well. You got to be passionate about your bets, man. That's how we know you care. You're really trying to win over here. I'm passionate about one of these two bets that I'm about to give out because the second one, I haven't made up my mind completely which angle. I wanted to actually ask Brad which one he thinks is a better bet. But this first one, I know that he'd get behind. Eric, hopefully I can get you behind too. But obviously you spoke on Purdue. I mean, Notre Dame looked fantastic, right? They host Miami, Ohio, the Redhawks, and I thought Blaine Gabbert was a pretty good quarterback. I thought Miami was going to have some substance to offense this year, but honestly, there's been nothing. I mean, 22 total points in 2 games against Northwestern and Cincy. No, those are 2 pretty good defensive teams. Notre Dame superior. But Miami, where I'm targeting, is the first half. They've only scored 6 points in the first half of their 2 games, made 2 field goals. We're getting a first half team total under 2.5 for plus 140. I like the chance they get shut out there. But there's also 3.5s for minus 150 if you want to pay that juice, because I do not think they score a touchdown at Notre Dame. I think the Fighting Irish have self-corrected their problems against Northern Illinois, but we will see. But the bet I need your guys' opinion on quickly is Kent State at Penn State, okay? Spread's 49, total's 55.5. So it says Penn State basically will shut Kent State out, right? Kent State lost 71-0 back-to-back. Do we play Penn State first quarter, minus 13.5 to get out to a 2-touchdown lead? Do we bite the juice, play Kent State first half team total under 0.5? They don't score a single point. How do we approach this game? Because honestly, everything looks too good after what I just saw Tennessee versus Kent State.
I would probably take the spread there, right? You imagine their offense is probably not going to move the ball successfully. We've seen some explosive plays from Penn State as well. Gives you a couple more outs too. That's first half, I'm assuming, is the 0 or 0 for the if Penn State go up to a 21-3, you lose, right, in the first half. But if they go up 14-0 in first quarter, you win. There's just so much randomness that happens in a football game. You don't want to eat juice for some randomness. Just go ahead and take the 13.5. And if they win the first half 10-0, right, and then they go on to win the game 45-0, it's just something you live with.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it has shades of Ohio State and Akron, right, for me. And Akron got out, scored a field goal on that first drive, then Ohio State ended up scoring majority of their points there in that second quarter when I had that first quarter team total over, which I thought was so sharp after Akron scored. And I was like, I didn't play the spread. I'm going to win this one. And we didn't win. But it gives me that vibe. Eric, what say you before we move on to one of your favorite bets?
Kent State scored 24 against Pitt week 1. Luke Flo, for those Kenny Florian fans, UFC, we'll repurpose his nickname, has been excellent in terms of the MAC receivers. He's probably been the best, one of the tippity top best MAC receivers we've seen out there. I think they can squeeze a touchdown. I think Penn State feels bad for their fellow Midwest team. Tennessee, they're Southern, so they don't care about the Midwest. But, Penn State, I think, will be nice enough to let them get in one time because they actually are a decent passing team. Kent State, when they're not playing Tennessee, these games are hard. I don't know. Why do you have to ask me about this game? I don't know, Vaughn.
Hey, when you see a team get beat 71-0, they're on the road against another ranked team. You got to get some type of action on the game, right?
But no points. No points. Maybe they could get one.
Geez, I agree. That's why I'm kind of skirmish. The first half team total under was like minus 180, and that's why I was like, that's a lot of juice on a first half team total under. Because if Kent State kicks a 48-yard field goal, I'm going to lose some. I cut my hair, but I'm going to lose more hair. I'm not about that life.
Well, you're the only one who cut the hair on this team.
Yeah,
right here.
We
ain't cutting it. Better you than us.
Been there,
got too much flow over here.
Been there, done that. What about you, Eric? What's your last favorite play before we talk about our best bets and we go 3-0 in that section?
Oh, my last play. Well, we saw what happened last week with Appalachian State against Clemson. What they didn't do was win. Defensively, they were pretty bad. I think we can all agree with that. However, Joey Aguiar is just such a gunslinger, such a competitor. And when you see him against the, teams of similar talent level and, aren't playing against the Clemsons of the world, Joey Aguiar rips. And with him being at 295.5 passing yards, he actually opened under I think he was right at 292 is where he opened. He's up a little bit at this point. I think he went for over 400 last game. I think he goes over 300 every time he gets the opportunity against a reasonable level of competition. ECU, they played last week specifically, and he tore apart ECU. It was just the only reason why he didn't have more passing touchdowns is just there was turnovers. But I don't see any reason why he can't go over 295.5 yards here. Love the Joey Aguiar over.
Yeah, I can't find many reasons to disagree with that one, to be honest with you. Not as much on my radar, but honestly, I think it's a number. When I looked at a few model projections, which I know Brad probably saw the same since we got some new toys in our kitchen set here. Some new utensils in our kitchen, I should put it, when it comes to projections. That one looks pretty good. But my best bet is going to be Iowa's money line. I'm going to make it my 2-unit special of the week here. I don't care if it's juicy because, like I said, I think it's a situation where Iowa is going to get the Brosmer from Minnesota. They're going to force some turnovers. Caleb Johnson will have a strong game. And in the last 2 meetings at Minnesota, the Gophers only scored a total of 17 points. So even at home, they haven't performed well against Iowa. So like I said, Iowa's back's against the wall. You lose this game, your season's practically over. You'll make a bowl game, but you're not making the college football playoffs. So Iowa money line, my best bet. Brad, what's yours?
Best bet, Alex Orji, over 40. It's like 40.5, 42, and 41.5 is what it is. Dude's going to be running like a beast. They're going to design plays for him. Easily my best bet. Didn't even think twice about it.
Love that. And so wrapping up the show as always, appreciate you guys. Joey Aguilar over 295.5 pass yards, Alex Orji over 40.5 rushing yards, and Iowa money line is our best bets. We do have to encourage you to take part in a vote if it is still open. Brad's baby girl, Juliet, baby of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Is the poll still open? Tell us about it.
It's still open. Listen, she's got to make it to. So what they do is they go and you apply or whatever, then they select you. So she got selected. Now she makes the top 25. So vote every single day. It's on my X account at Mr. Brad Thomas. Go vote every day. And then once she makes the top 25, let's go make that 25 bands, baby.
That's amazing. Baby of the year. Only one of the 3 of us could have that title, and it's not going to be Eric or myself. You could tell we're not responsible enough. So Brad, congratulations. Hope she wins. Make sure you guys go vote for that. Make sure you like and subscribe to the show as always. If you enjoyed it today, tons of great action and plays from Eric, Brad, and myself. Thank you for checking out another episode of the College Football Takeover here on Bet the Edge. Thanks to our producers backstage, and we will see you next time. Best of luck.